Hi, welcome back to Fibromyalgia Real Talk, where we are getting real about our fibromyalgia. So in my last video, I kind of just gave you an overrun of the research and kind of what they're focusing on now, kind of what they've ruled out. Today, we're going to get into the nervous system and how your nervous system actually works in your body so you can understand how the fibromyalgia is messing everything up in there. But first I need to clarify a few things for you that I forgot to do in the last video. First, I just wanted to let you know that there is no evidence or proof on that one single event causes fibromyalgia. So don't tune out just because I said that. I promise you that I'm not ever going to make a statement that I can't back up with what I'm going to tell you or with the research, okay? So most of you relate your fibromyalgia when it started to a specific event, like a surgery, a car accident, trauma, some kind of stress in your life, okay? To say that that is what caused your fibromyalgia just isn't correct, because fibromyalgia is a lot more complex than that. And basically it happens over time, and you need a lot of stressful events, and that one thing that you think started or triggered your fibromyalgia was actually the last straw for your body. It was unable to maintain the correct homeostasis for your body because the stress it couldn't take it anymore. So it's just like when you vomit or you throw up and you get sick and you blame it on the last thing that you ate, when actually in your body there were things already happening before you actually ate that caused you to throw up. It wasn't what you ate. So it's kind of like that. Physical and emotional stress play a big part into it, and stay with me because it's all going to make sense in just a few minutes. Secondly, I wanted to just let you in on an idea that I am personally following and very interested in. There is a doctor who did a YouTube video about fibromyalgia, and his name is Dr. Rutherford. He's actually a neurologist, and he has fibromyalgia, and he has studied many and many and many patients, thousands of patients, okay? So his video is really long. It's almost 2 hours, so it's kind of dragged out. So I'm just going to paraphrase it for you. Basically what he is saying is the one thing that he has found in common with all of the people that have fibromyalgia that he's dealt with, we all have a background history of some kind of stress or abuse, meaning that you grew up in a household that maybe there was yelling, maybe there was physical abuse, maybe there was sexual abuse, something like that, where your body was always in that stress mode, where you were in survival mode, just trying to get through the day, okay? That's important to know. So what happens when you hit that stress mode is your body goes into the fight or flight response, which I'm going to explain to you in just a minute. What Dr. Rutherford is saying in his video is he thinks that our bodies are in the fight or flight response so often that our brains are just clicking over and we're stuck in that response. So that's our normal functioning response instead of it just being for stressful times. And when I explain to you what that response does in our body, then a lot of the symptoms are going to make sense of why we have them. Okay, so that's kind of where his research is headed, and I think they're looking at that possibility more. There's also one other thing that they're starting a lot of research on, and that's the myelin sheath. Now, in the last video, I told you the white matter in your brain houses the myelin sheath, and the myelin sheath is the protection and insulation for your neurons in your nervous system. They've already found, like I said before, that the myelin sheath is very thin or non-existent in fibromyalgia patients. Why is that significant to us? Our nerves are like a bundle of wires protected by the myelin sheath. So think about the wires in your wall for a minute. So the electricity that's moving within those wires back and forth constantly, just sending energy and sending messages, that covering that's around them is what's keeping the energy from just blasting out and just, zapping over here, going over there, or, making it to the wrong place that it's not supposed to go. So things are messed up in your house when you flip on a switch that's supposed to turn on the light in your living room, but your hairdryer in the bathroom turns on. Okay, that is what is happening in our bodies. So keep that in mind when we talk about it. All right, so this is why we get so many symptoms of other illnesses, and this is also why we don't actually have those illnesses. And we're going to get into that as we talk about the different symptoms and illnesses as well. There's something different in our body that's causing those symptoms from what normally causes the symptoms in people that are sick with just that illness and not anything else, okay? So it's just our bodies are just getting confused, sending messages to the wrong place at the wrong time. So this is one of the reasons I want to mention right here that we mimic MS symptoms so much is because they are also a myelin sheath disease. Like I mentioned in the last video, their myelin sheath, their autoimmune, their immune system is eating big holes in the myelin sheath, which is making the wires exposed, so to speak. So what happens if that wire is exposed and it gets wet in your wall, right? It sparks, or it makes it stop working, or it can start a fire or whatever. So in our bodies, it's the same thing. With those big holes, their nerves can actually die, and that's why their symptoms become more permanent sometimes and can be more debilitating, because once your nerve dies, it does not regenerate. So that's a big thing to remember, that our nerves do not regenerate once they die. But we luckily are not going to have permanent damage from this fibromyalgia because our nerves aren't dying, they're just not being covered well. All right, we'll get into more of that later. So how do we protect the myelin sheath? I just wanted to mention this right here because it's important to understand how the body is working around our myelin sheath. So with our fatigue and our low energy, what happens is our metabolism will steal energy from the brain cells. So when the brain's low on energy, it actually breaks down the myelin sheath, because the myelin sheath is made of fat and cholesterol, and the body will break that down for energy, just like when you're exercising, your body's breaking down the fat in your body for energy. So it does the same thing, but it's kind of harming itself as it's doing that. So by increasing our metabolic energy so that our brain always has the energy it needs, it will help keep us from breaking that down. So here's some things that we can do to help with that. Our neural tissue, like I said, is 70% saturated fat and cholesterol. So you have to eat the right fats in your diet and able to support that, support the cell growth of your nervous system. We need sleep, and we all know that we don't sleep well. We don't get that restorative sleep, and that is the most important thing that we need, because our body turns on genes when we go into that REM sleep that repairs any damage that's happened to our cells or our nervous system or our body during the day, and it kind of resets everything for you. So work on getting sleep. Vitamin C and collagen also play a role in the myelin formation, so make sure you're getting that in your diet. Chronic alcohol use actually deteriorates the brain cells and causes them to die. So like I said, brain cells don't regenerate, so don't drink. It's just so bad for your body in so many ways, and when you already have a problem with your nervous system, alcohol's just going to make it worse. You need to get your iron levels up, because iron levels help support the myelin sheath. Iodine for your thyroid health, to strengthen your metabolism and make sure you're keeping your energy levels up. And zinc, believe it or not, strengthens the myelin sheath, making it harder for the brain to break it down. So not only does zinc help your immune system and other things in your body, but it's specific to the myelin sheath. So it's good to have that in your daily supplements that you take. All right, here we go. The central nervous system runs all the functions in our body, so let's break it down a little bit. As I stated before, we have a problem with the communication between our brain and our body. There's a medical term for this. It's called dysautonomia. Here's some of the symptoms of dysautonomia. Headaches, like tension and migraines, puffy eyes, pins and needles and numbness, muscle weakness, anxiety or excitability, clammy skin or sweating. How many of us complain about that? Chest pain from stress, not cardiac chest pain. GI upsets like IBS, gastroparesis, gastritis, nausea and vomiting, poor absorption in the gut. carpal tunnel, shortness of breath, dizziness, gait or balance problems, fainting, fast or slow heartbeats, and visual disturbances. So wow, did any of that sound familiar? Yeah, we have most of that plus more. So that tells you right there that we have a dysfunctioning nervous system. All right, so breaking it down, the autonomic nervous system has two parts. These are the important parts that I want you to know for all of the rest of our discussions. You have to understand how these work so you can follow me with what's going on in your body. So we're going to start with the sympathetic nervous system. It's composed of many pathways and causes a variety of functions on the organ systems. The central nervous system is located in the spinal cord from T1 to L2, and it's in the gray matter. So T1 is just basically at the base of your neck and goes all the way down to the lumbar spine, and that's where the nerves come out, or where the nerves are in the spinal cord that make this function happen. So what does it do? Well, it dilates your pupils so that you can have more light, so that you can see farther and see more around you, so that you, in case you need to make some quick decisions or get away. It increases your heart rate and your blood pressure to get oxygenated blood to the muscles and the tissues. It decreases your pulmonary secretions for better breathing, so that you're not, if you're breathing heavy and trying to fight or trying to run, you don't want to be inhaling your spit, because that'll cause you not to breathe well. So it decreases all of your secretions. Decreases the motility in your stomach and your intestines, so it slows down digestion to divert the energy to other parts of your body, like your muscles. Stops urine output. The liver increases glucose production for your energy, and it produces sweating to cool down the body as you're heating up. And of course, your adrenals produce the epinephrine that you need for, which we call adrenaline, basically. So this system is activated during stress periods only, and that's the fight or flight response. It's designed to enhance the voluntary muscle activity while shutting down all non-essential functions in your body. This is very important to remember because the central nervous system is only there to help us get through stressful situations. It's only designed to be activated for short periods of time, and then it turns off and puts our body back into hemostasis when the stress goes away. So it's not made to be this long-acting, activated all the time kind of a system. All right, so if Dr. Rutherford's idea is correct, that can answer a lot of our questions. I'm just going to give you a few examples of how this makes sense already, just in what we know. So if our blood is being pumped in big amounts to our muscles for short periods of time, no wonder we run out of energy so quickly. Like if we're vacuuming the house and then all of a sudden we're exhausted, we have no more energy. What just happened? That's because if we're stuck in the fight or flight mode, our muscles are only activated for that short burst period of time, and then all of a sudden all the energy goes away. The boost of energy to our muscles also causes lactic acid production, which causes muscle pain and joint stiffness, which we have a lot of muscle pain and joint stiffness. Our bowel and bladder problems that we have are happening because if we're in the fight or flight mode, our bowel and our bladder have been shut down or slowed down to the point to where it's not letting the functions work properly. So just those three little things right there explain a lot if our nervous system is activated backwards from what it's supposed to be. And we'll get into that more when we talk about the specific symptoms. So now the second part of our autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic. So if the sympathetic is the fight or flight stress response, the parasympathetic is the opposite of that. It promotes rest and digest is what they call it. Because basically it's your normal everyday functioning mode that your body is in, and it conserves energy and helps you be able to the rest of your functions in your body to work properly. So what it does is it constricts your eyes, so it improves your near vision. It increases the secretions in your lungs so that you can breathe easier. It reactivates the salivary glands. It increases your gut motility to help with digest and get everything moving again. It decreases your heart rate and your blood pressure, gets them back to normal so that you're not using too much energy or oxygen that your body needs. It turns back the normal functioning of the bowel and bladder, and it resets your sexual arousal. So everything returns back to normal in the parasympathetic state. The parasympathetic nerves begin in the medulla of the brain and go down to the middle of the spinal column. One of our biggest nerves that affects our body pretty much immediately is called the vagus nerve. So it is the biggest nerve in our upper body, and it helps control the heart rate, the lungs, the digestion, coughing, sneezing, vomiting, and swallowing. So this is the nerve that actually causes people to die in the bathroom when they're on the toilet. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when you activate the vagus nerve, it slows everything down. It can bring your blood pressure down to 0. It can bring your heart rate down to 0 and stop your heart. So it's one of those nerves you really don't want to mess with. I had a patient in the hospital the other day that had a reaction with her vagus nerve. She was trying to have a bowel movement, and she just got real pale and clammy, and she was completely out of it, gone, like not able to respond to me any longer. And so we figured out that she was having a vagal response, which is what we call it. So we just had to get her back in bed, start giving her some fluids. Eventually everything came back up on her own, and she woke back up and everything was fine. But this is important to know because it is a big, major functioning nerve of a lot of places that we have problems in. And then the very biggest nerve in your body is the sciatic nerve. It supplies the motor function and the sensation of your lower body. All right, so, and just keep in mind that a lot of our muscles run alongside our nerves, and so with our nerves already getting the messages messed up and things not working right, our muscles, if they're contracted or we have a trigger point that's near a nerve and that muscle just tightens up, it can wrap around that nerve, and it can, make the pain 5 times as worse. I mean, it can just really cause problems. So there's a lot of different things that can cause us to have issues. So there's a couple of smaller systems that I wanted to tell you about also. We have the somatic nervous system. This system controls the voluntary muscle movements of the body and the limbs. So the primary role of this system is to connect the brain to the body. These are our sensory neurons. It is what causes you to pull your hand back when you touch something really hot and your body senses that there's heat, and it gives you that jerking reflex. So how do the messages get from the brain to the muscles to make that happen? Something called neurotransmitters. They are chemical messengers that send messages between nerve cells and allows our brain to communicate with those nerve cells. And there's a reason that I'm telling you this part. Some transmitters excite the brain, while other transmitters will slow the brain down. Others will make you sleep. Others will put you in that wakeful state and help you to be alert. So the thing about these neurotransmitters, they can change the message as they're being sent before it connects to the nerve cell that it's meant for. So if it can do all of that, just sending one message, and our messages are getting misinterpreted or jumping to the wrong track or going to the wrong nerve cell, you can see how that's a big problem. I mean, that's just a huge area right there for lots of mistakes to happen. And then we have neuropeptides, and these are the proteins that make the majority of these messengers that the neurotransmitters send out. They're made in the hypothalamus of our brain, and these chemicals pass through the pituitary gland, which reaches a chemical message to the body with specific instructions on what it's supposed to do. So neuropeptides are the bridge between the brain and the body. So neurotransmitters create the message, and they can change it as it's going to where it's supposed to be going, and the neuropeptides are the bridge that helps it go from the brain to the body. And just a little side note here, there's no living organism that was designed to deal with stress or negative effects on the body constantly, okay? So when your stress response is turned on, frequently and for long durations of time, your body will eventually have some kind of breakdown, okay? Because your body just can't, it's just not made to handle the negativity and the stress. We're made of energy. We are all energy. So if you have all this negative energy flow and you have all this positive energy in your body, it's going to be suppressed, and eventually it's just going to be like, hey, I'm tired of this. Get off of me. I don't want to do this anymore. And it's just going to stop supporting you at all. So let's see. Oh, okay. One last part. You are done learning the nervous system. This is the very basics. I didn't really go into a lot of the anatomy because it's just going to confuse you, and you're going to be like, what? So there's one last thing, and it's the peripheral nervous system, because we all are wondering why we have peripheral nerve damage. So if the central nervous system is the main highway, the peripheral nervous system is the secondary connecting roads to that highway that go out to the very, very ends of our peripheries, all the way to our toes and to the very ends of our fingers. It allows the nerves and the messages to reach all the way there. So each nerve consists of a bundle of nerve fibers called axons. Each nerve fiber is an extension of a neuron in the gray matter of the brain. So remember, the neuron is that nerve that the neurotransmitter actually sends the messages to, and then they go to these axons for our very peripheries, which that's how we sense our external environment, basically, is through our peripheral nerves. So we sense touch, we sense heat, cold, all that stuff. That's what our peripheral nerves do. Pressure changes, smell, taste, hearing, all that stuff, that we have sensory input from our environment, that's what our peripheral nerves do for us. So when those get messed up or they're not functioning properly, then we have problems with our sensory issues, because our bodies have a hard time being able to keep up with, is it really hot, is it really cold, because we're always the opposite of whatever it is. And was that hot, or whatever it is, we smell things that are not there, we taste things that we're not even eating right now, because these messages are getting all messed up in our body. So this is why fibromyalgia is so complex. There's not an easy answer. It's not an on and off switch. It doesn't just all of a sudden start happening because of some kind of stressful event. And it just messes everything up. So I'm going to attach to this video a chart, and what the chart is, it's the vertebrae nerves, and it goes through each vertebrae in the body, starting from the top all the way to the bottom, and it tells you what the nerve does that comes out of that vertebrae. So it'll tell you the part of the body that it's responsible for, and it will tell you the symptoms that you're going to have if that nerve is acting up or somehow being pinched or not functioning properly. I really, really, really want you to take a look at that, because when we talk about the symptoms and different things that are going on in our body, you can refer back to that chart and be like, oh yeah, okay, I get it now. I understand, why that's happening, and I know exactly where it's coming from. So you'll have more knowledge, and you'll be able to know your bodies better and know why something is happening, so that you can know the proper treatment to take care of that problem. So take a look at it. If for some reason you can't see it or I can't get it, you can just go on Pinterest and just look for the vertebrae charts, because there's a ton of them on there and they all have the same information. So check it out. All right, that's it for today. I know that's a lot for you guys to process, so go ahead, watch the video a couple times, process it. And the next video, we're going to talk about some inflammation, and then I'm going to get right into the symptoms. And the way I'm going to attack this, I think, is we're just going to start from the top of the body and go to the bottom and just talk about everything along the way. So see you next time. Thanks for watching.